as you're probably aware, we've got some guest speakers here today, which I'm delighted that they've took the time and effort to come up to see us. Firstly, I'd like to make a small announcement. As you all know, 10 years ago this month, a young lad in Glasgow was abducted, tortured, murdered by Asians. A couple of weeks ago, different organisations paid respect to Chris Donald in Glasgow by visiting the memorial sites, which we also did ourselves on behalf of the National Front. Today, I would like, if everybody's upstanding, we'll do a minute of silence for Chris Donald and any other white victims of race attacks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. When we decided to organise this meeting, we chose this area for different reasons. One is we felt that we've got a lot of support in this area as nationalists. Quite a central location, and contrary to what the press have been saying the last couple of days, it's nothing to do with any neo-Nazi concerts and stuff that have been taking place nearby. This meeting was organised just to give everybody a chance to meet in Scotland and for us to invite our guests from England to come up and receive a bit of Scottish hospitality. The plan for today, after I finish my little talk here, is to introduce speakers. The first person that will be coming up for a little talk will be Malky, who I've known for about 20 years now, and he's hiding at the back there. He'll come up first, followed by some of the other specially invited guests. As we mentioned earlier on, this is a British nationalist meeting. There are certain issues, especially in Scotland this year, that some people want to discuss, some people don't, i.e. the referendum. I'm not going to speak about the referendum at all. It's not till September, and we'll just let our Scottish members make up their own mind how they want to sway with this. So, what I'll do as the meeting goes along, we'll check the time, so I'm hoping that we're finished here around about 5 o'clock. If near the end all the speakers have spoken and we've got a bit of time, feel free to ask the National Front Chairman here, Kev, any questions, any issues that are on your mind. Just be like a question and answer session, if we've got time. Sorry to put you in the spot there, Kev, but because there's a lot of things going on within the party that some people are aware of and some people are not aware of. So if we've got time, we'll throw in a question and answer session right at the end of the meeting. So what I'll do now is I'll ask Malcolm to come to the front here and do a little wee talk about nationalism.
Don't clap me too loud and speak, man. Well, I'm not a man for writing my speech and stuff and that. I speak from the heart. And all I feel is that the nationalists in Britain need to get a grip. This in-house bickering between different movements, groups, organisations has to stop. Throughout Europe, the nationalist movement has have got strongholds. Hungary, Greece, France, the Netherlands, Scandinavia. Throughout Europe, they've managed to get their differences to get away and join and be strong. And we have to do it here. I have friends in so many different organisations, so many different groups who believe the same as what I believe. But because they've got a different badge or a different group name, they make that there should be no difference with us. We've got enough enemies in this country. We've got enough enemies who hate us, the press, the media, the left. They hate us. But we can't join together and unite to support each other in street demos and concerts and so many other things, and we have to do this because we'll go nowhere unless we can stop the stupid differences between us. There's so many groups that believe the same as what we believe, and we've got to stop this. National Front, British Moon, Blood and Honour, Hammerskins, the list is endless. And there's plastic nationalists which should be exposed as plastic nationalists, as that Monkey Salmon and that up in the SNP up here. They're not a nationalist movement. You know, we've got to sort out the true nationalists in this country and join. Keep our identities, but it doesn't stop us from joining together and supporting each other. You know, as I said, I'm not a speaker. I'm not a talker. I speak from my heart. So it's not going to be a fluent speech. As David was saying, we were through in Glasgow 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, to remember Chris Donald. And we were in Britain, and we were cheated. How well we were cheated.
Yeah, it was excellent.
We were, the barman left the bar, stuck us in the car, took us down and brought us back up. We've got a community within Scotland which supports us. We need to get that support onto our side because we believe in the same thing. We believe in that flag. We believe in our race and we believe in our culture.
Right.
And we've got to do this because we've got the chance. And we're the last generation, because if we don't do it, we're knackered. Everyone here from Scotland who lives in the little villages, the little towns, they'll tell you what the difference is. 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't see a black face, we didn't see an Asian face. You go through some of the villages now, you've got an Asian post office, an Asian takeaway. We've got to stand up. We've got to stand up. We've got to stop the infighting. Because if we don't stop this infighting, all we're doing is destroying ourselves. And that is as simple as that. That's a simple message which should come across to all of us. The one thing we should all take away from this meeting today is that we're white, we're British, and we'll stand together. We have to, because if we don't stand together, we'll lose a battle. We've got so much against us, so much against us. It's only short and brief. I'm not a speaker, I'm quite shy actually, you know. So, the one thing I'd like everyone to do is give this man here a quick applause.
Well
This
done.
man works so hard. He never stops. He's on the phone every night. I was going to get BT to stop him phoning me, but you know, ideas, and this is what it's all about. And this is another good man here, and he knows exactly what I'm saying about this stupid infighting and this stupid arguments about groups where they say we're white. That's all I had to say. It's only brief, but thank you.
Local elections this year. In Scotland, we've got no local elections this year. We've only got the referendum, as I already mentioned. But 2015, and I've already discussed this with fellow members in National Scotland, we're going to have candidates at the general election in Aberdeen, which I believe would be for the first time. First time ever. With two areas that we're going to concentrate on, two constituencies, and we're hoping put in place plans to leaflet from later on this year right through to next year. Obviously we don't have a date for the general election, but it might be a snap election, we don't know. We'll be looking at the chairman, Kev, for help and advice with this. People like Richard, who's been through this many times before. It's going to be new to us in Scotland. We've never stood at a general election. We've stood at every other election, apart from, we won't count the European ones, because
No.
they're absolutely worthless. But next year, we're looking forward to it. There's going to be a lot of work needs to go into it, but we're going to do this, and hopefully the rest of the UK will get other candidates want to come forward in the party will support. We believe that the party is moving forward. We need these media outlets to spread the message, because the newspapers are only going to print nonsense about us if they print anything. So going out in the streets, putting leaflets through doors, handing leaflets to people on activities helps. The internet, although it can be a bit of a nuisance at times, is a godsend as well, because you are able to reach so many people quickly, especially with emails and stuff. So, as I said, next year that's what we're going to be doing in Scotland. We're hoping this year to boost our numbers that are travelling to the AGM, which is later on in the year in a venue which will be announced later. The Remembrance Sunday parade in London. We're hoping again to boost our numbers there from Scotland. It's always a small amount that goes down, but it's been up the last couple of years. So we're going to encourage people to come in and support the party at this event. Although it's not a political event, we feel that we really need to do this every year. So all in all, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to speak about internal issues with the party because it's not relevant. We're looking forward and we're looking in a positive way to what we're going to achieve, what we know we're capable of achieving. So, before we finish today as well, for anybody that is a non-member, I've got information packs available that you can take away with you, some literature in it for reading. Also as membership, or by all means, if you take some information packs and you know friends or family that would be interested in it, pass it on to them. It will help spread the good things that the party are doing, and hopefully we'll get their support as well. So that takes me on to our next guest speaker, who, like myself, doesn't like speaking for too long. This man doesn't really need much of an introduction. I've known him a long time as well. He's helped me get over a scrape at least once, many years ago, and I'm forever grateful for that. He travels all across the UK, supporting other National Front units, branches, regions. The work he does in the North East is absolutely fantastic. So if you put your hands together for Big Z.
Soul of the National Front in Scotland to try and give him your support, because it does mean a lot. I'm only as good as I am, as they say, the wolf is only as good as the pack, and the pack is only as good as the wolf, and the strength of it. But it's not really much of a thing, is it? But coming up here was quite a pleasant journey. It makes a change from travelling around England, all these black cities and all these black towns and nations up there, and just travelling up here, seeing all the countryside. You think about within thousands of years, there weren't many blacks trudging around with spears up here. There were white Roman soldiers, weren't they, defending it? And there weren't many blacks or Asians toiling the land up here in Scotland. They're all white people. It just seems a damn shame, doesn't it, that the government now is just giving it all to them after thousands of years of us white people building up to what it is today, you know, and we're not going to let this go away, are we? We're not going to let this happen, and it's worth defending. When you just look out there, you see the hills and the valleys and the lakes and the streams, and that's Scotland, that's the heartbeat, that's Great Britain, that's lovely, that's our culture, that's where we come from, blood and soil, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And just hearing Malky speak before and that, there's no infighting, there's no way. Let the EDL do what they want to do, let the infidels do what they want to do, everyone's doing something. Ian Stewart once said to me, and Hazel go back to the Ian Stewart days, gone by, you know, those are the days everyone, if you're not doing anything, then you're doing something wrong. Get out there and do something today, so do something. So at least they're doing something. In Peterborough, there's a demonstration going on down there. In Sunderland, there's a demonstration going on down there. So people are doing things. Let's just concentrate on the NF members, what we've got, and the supporters of what we've got, and look after them and keep the NF going strong. Let everyone else do what they want to do at the end of the day. They're all giving the left wing and the police and the government a hard time. Things are building up, and at some point somewhere, it's all going to have to join together and come together. And on some of these occasions, I've been on some demos where there have been EDL, infidels, and NF people, and some loyalist guys, and we've all been in the city centre in Newcastle, and it's worked a treat. So it's only certain people, it's only certain individuals, it's not the bulk of the people following the little groups, but the main thing is they're following something. 10 years ago, none of these people were around, and they weren't following anything, and they weren't joining on any marches. But now we're getting marches and demonstrations. Yeah, they're missing the point a little bit about who brought all these immigrants here and who's in power in the government, as Arthur keeps telling me, that long book knows people. But, you know, some of these people, they will get it in the end of who's controlling the country and that. But the main thing is, they're getting off their arse and they're doing something and they're demonstrating. And along the way, like me, when I was a young skinhead, you learn. You start learning about the left wing. You start learning, you know, about Zionism and all what's going on and all what's happening at the end of the day. Who's singing there? Whose phone is that?
Sorry.
It's a Zionist infiltrator, right? Right then, that's Mandy from Hartlepool. Anyway, thank you for coming down. But I think Dave's doing a tremendous job up there. Everyone's doing a tremendous job, and it is a lonely road. Nationalism and doing this, and sometimes it's a thankless road of what we're doing, trying to get meetings and trying to organise marches and demos, and then you're looking for your phone book, and then all week long people start texting you saying, I've got the dentist, I've got the doctors, I've got a football match, and you think, my God, is it worthwhile? Our own white people aren't even rising up and trying to do something. I remember this Chris Donald, this savage killing, and I've still got all the press cuttings in my box, and it was quite horrendous at the time. It was probably one of the most horrendous things that the Asians have done up there that I can recall. And yet where were all the whites rising up? Anything. It was only nationalists that were getting up and just coming once a year to remember him, and that's a sad shame. And even when that soldier died in Woolwich, I was expecting the whole country to go up, and it didn't. And that's a big worry, isn't it? When you think, if something like that happened in one of their countries, or if it had been two white skinheads chopping the head off a black man, there would have been riots galore all up and down this country. But there hasn't been. And here we've got a soldier, Lee Rigby, with his head hacked off, which I think changed in Britain. It unhinged everything a little bit. And it's changed a lot of things, perception, and now people are a little bit worried, now they're thinking a little bit, but it didn't have that bang. I thought everyone would be up in arms and they'd be rampaging. I thought the squaddies would be out on the drink, going ballistic in the cities and towns where they live, and it hasn't. So it's quite frightening that our own people are still sheeple. There's still sheep at the end of the day, and it's very worrying that only people in nationalism or other groups are doing something about it. So let's not worry about what the EDL are doing or what the infidels are doing. Let's worry about the people that are not doing anything. They're the people we need to get off the estates. Probably too many of them are on drugs or whatever, but they're more important, they're more interested in football or what they're going to score for that evening or whatever, rather than their own country. And it's a shame that our people have been raped and killed and murdered by these blacks, by these politicians that brought them here. So the blood lies at the feet of the politicians for years that have brought every person that's been victimised by a black or Asian or an immigrant lies at the hand of the politician at the end of the day. And people have got to realise this and rise up against this. And until all these other so-called nationalists start turning political, they're just going to be drinking out of cans of lager and shouting and bawling, which isn't going to get anywhere. We need to do more. And it's like Dave up here, and Richard and Kev and everyone long-term nationalists, and you yourselves are probably long-term nationalists where you're sitting there. You know plenty of other people. We just need to get more involved, and to do that, Dave's going to have to do more demos, more street activities and attract the attention of people to get out there. And I know it's hard, we have to do it in the North East. Get out there and just do some demos. We've got St George's Day coming up. I know that won't interest the Scottish lads, but you should have your St Andrew's Day, but we should have a bank holiday. It's our patron saint, for God's sakes, and nothing's been done about that. We have another demo coming up on the 10th of May. It's an anti-grooming demo. This could be interesting. The North East now is the biggest inquiry ongoing of grooming. 64 people have now been arrested. One, thankfully, hung himself last week in jail. 9 of them have already been in court, and there are 80 white victims. It's the biggest one of Rochdale and Oldham put together, and the police expect the numbers to rise dramatically. Every house that they're raiding, they're taking all the mattresses out, putting them in the special bags. I know this because I live in the heart of the West End of Newcastle, and everyone's telling me what are we going to do, what's happening, what can we do. So first of all, let's get the media attention, which has blanked it completely out. All you get is little tidbits. 3 months ago, 29 people were arrested, and then ever since then, all these arrests have been built up. And just a tiny little piece on the news last week in the North East News, and the 64th person to be arrested. That's outrageous. That's horrendous. These bastards really hate us, don't they, at the end of the day? They're raping our bloody kids. And the police know about it, the social services know about it, and the government knows about it, and it's doing nothing about it. So we're going to go out there, we're going to hold a demo. It's open to everyone to come along. It's on the 10th of May. We're going to have all the banners and placards there. This time I think it'll attract more of the locals. Got a lot of the locals said that will come down and vent their anger in the city centre, and that's what we need, rather than just an anti-immigration thing or St George's Day demo. This is hitting the people now. This is hurting the people, and some people's daughters that we know have been affected by this. And if it's happening in Newcastle, which is the smallest city in England, you know it's happening up here. And it's only going to be a matter of time before the police or someone exposes it. We've got to get out there and tell the people, there's social services, the police and the councillors and MPs have done absolutely sod all about it. They don't care. Hiding it under, telling the girls well, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, or the police too scared of being called or gracious at the end of the day. So we're going to have a demo, an anti-grooming demo. It's a national demo. Let's see if we can expose this a little bit, expose the people that have been quiet about it. For years, people have been raped and groomed in Newcastle. This has been going on for 25 years. They've only just decided now to arrest people. The police are sick of it. They're giving us tidbits and, you know, telling us what's happening when people have been dragged out of the house and things like that. So, but at the end of the day, it's a frightening situation for us to be in. You know, 40, 50, 60 years of immigration poured into this country. It's tearing the heart and soul out of this. It's killing our people, it's raping our people, it's robbing us of our land, of our houses, of our jobs, of our dignity, of our heritage, of everything what we've known thousands of years. And this is horrendous. This has to stop. This has got to stop. It's not going to stop until we get out there and roll up our sleeves, unfortunately. It's not going to stop with elections. It's not going to stop with handing out leaflets. The National Front's going to have to be one step forward now. We're going to have to be a bit more robust in that. So we're going to have to pull our fingers out, and if we do, please support us in what we're doing. I know all the North East lads are behind me, but get behind this man here, because he is the heart and soul at the end of the day. And if he goes, then nothing exists up here. So please support him where you can, and give him some stamps, or just stand by him. Let him do all the talking to the press or whatever. And where the North East can, we'll come up here and give as much support as we can, because we haven't got much of a future, is we? We can't have another 60 years of death on our hands like this. I prefer to roll up my sleeves and get stuck in really, and just go out with a bang. So look, anyway, that's all I've got to say. But anything I can help anyone with, you're all welcome to the North East, and we'll come up here and give you a hand as much as we can. But keep up the good work, Dave. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you, Biggsy. Before I go on, can everybody make sure mobile phones are off or on silent, just in case any picks up on the recording. Back to what Biggsy just spoke about regarding the grooming down in North East England. I saw this morning, just on the internet, I haven't all the details yet. Some of you may already have saw this in the news, but there's 2 operations in Scotland that have just been revealed. And they've said that due to security reasons, they're not going to give the areas or much details about what's been going on. It's two major operations to do with grooming our children in Scotland. It just appeared, I only saw it this morning on the internet. It was actually a news link. So what I would say is, if you get a chance, do a bit of checking and see exactly what unfolds with this. If we find out an area that this is taking place, it's guaranteed we will have demonstrations in that area, and we would expect other decent people, not just National Front members, but decent people to turn up at these events. The same as they do down in England, and the same that they're going to do when Big Z and his team have their demos. Everybody should be horrified with this type of things. And this was just a little wee clip on the internet I saw today, and I just clicked on this wee link, and it came up, and it said further details to follow. It's two operations in Scotland. Don't know the areas, but it's ethnic, different ethnic groups are involved in the investigation, so we think we know where we're heading with this. I would hazard a guess that it's going to be around Glasgow area, down this, maybe central. Might possibly in the north as well, but I would imagine, especially with all these lot, it's going to be down the Glasgow West Coast area. But we'll keep our eyes peeled for this. As soon as we get any information, we'll plan demonstrations in that areas. Everybody will be invited, and hopefully we'll get a good response for that. But obviously that's looking to the future, but we're not going to wait 6 months after getting details. If we get the details the next couple of days, we'll plan something very quick, and hopefully we'll get support from other organisations, other individuals. That's one of the problems that we have, not just in Scotland, the whole of the UK, is this Muslim influence. Up in Aberdeen, just recently, we held a demonstration outside, what's the name of the hotel? Three Tops Hotel in Aberdeen. Very, very plush hotel. And it was a fundraiser dinner to raise money for the building of a new mosque. So we stood outside the grounds with some banners and flags as we saw car after car of Muslim families going into this complex. We just, unfortunately, we almost caused a crash with two of them. The man here was standing next to me at the time. The driver of one of the cars actually turned to look at our banners. It slammed on the brake, and there was a car just missed it by inches. Another Asian family, but unfortunately they broke in time. So, but to cut a long story short, that evening they raised, I think it was 240,000 one night, one dinner dance, or whatever they do. It's all these weirdos. 240,000. The figure is now broke through the £1 million that they've raised. This is in Aberdeen. It's local businessmen, which would take, must be Asian businessmen, are putting the money in. They needed £1 million to get this new building. It's in the Nelson Street area of the city centre, just off the city centre. We've been down a few times to the site. I actually put a complaint in on behalf of the party to the Scottish office regarding it, because the planning application put in was flawed. They never mentioned it was going to be a mosque. They said there was only going to be a maximum of 30 people in it. Now there's going to be 1,000. This is all in a planning application. I submitted an official complaint to the council first, the planning department, and then the Scottish government, the Scottish ombudsman. Everything was thrown out. And basically I said to them, if they're wanting a building, wanting permission for a building, it's only going to have 30 people in it. Surely the safety aspects of it must go into place if there's more than 30. They said no. So they also said as well, when they spoke to the local, it's in the middle of a street, a residential street, they sent letters to the residents and said it's going to be a community centre. not going to be a community centre, it's going to be a mosque. So the residents kept quiet, thinking, oh, it's fine, we're getting a community centre right beside our doors. No, it's a mosque. All the planning applications that went in, it's all been passed, and the councillors, as usual, have refused to acknowledge any phone calls, emails from ourselves. They just went complete silence. That's just in Aberdeen. Obviously, this is going to be happening right across the UK. In a matter of years, there's going to be hundreds of mosques in Scotland, for instance. I know there's already thousands in England, scattered all over. They're taking over. The people can't see this, what's happening. They think, oh, they don't bother me, they keep themselves to themselves. They don't. Because we saw with Lee Rigby, they don't keep themselves to themselves. They've got their own thing, their own idea of what they want to happen in this country. Anybody they don't agree with, they're going to try very quickly in Scotland. So we, as a National Front, are going to protest every time there's going to be a new mosque application goes in. Doesn't matter what area it is. We're going to be looking at other organisations that we've got friends within, get their support. As Briggsy mentioned, as Malky mentioned as well, we need people to stick together for this, which we're going to do. And we know it's going to be tough, but it's something we've got to win. We've got to beat this Muslim influence. I've got to get rid of it in this country because they are taking over. And for a tiny percentage of the population, they're even more controlling than the hook-nosed people. Not me, by the way, in case you're wondering. In case there's any comment. So that's one of the major things we're going to be doing in Scotland. More details of that will be announced later. So that's the end of my little wee bit of rabbiting for just now, because I'm going to introduce another very special guest. Richard Edmonds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, fellow nationalists. Thank you for the invitation to speak here in Bonnie, Scotland. We're all British nationalists here. A lot of us are very British. I'll just tell you two slight things about myself. I could call myself a very British individual. My father's mother was a Welshwoman, and my mother's mother came from Edinburgh. So I'm a very British sort of person, like most of us here. It's an honour and a pleasure to speak at this National Front meeting. The National Front is the voice of the British people. We will be with the British people from beginning to end in this business, I have no doubt. The National Front was formed almost 50 years ago. The National Front has had ups and downs like any other organisation. The National Front has struggled with the problems of the British people, and I will say the British people have got two problems. First of all, they are absolutely lied to by their so-called leaders, these so-called politicians. The British people are absolutely lied to day after day after day. For at least 50 years, they've been lied to day after day. And the second problem the British people have got is that they are demoralised. Any people that is lied to day after day by the media, the press, the television, and their elected politicians, any people who's lied to every day for at least 50 years is going to end up confused and demoralised. And if you wonder, as we all wonder, all of us in this movement have given up this day and have given up a great deal more to be active in this movement. We've all wondered, why do the British people put up with it all? We've all tried to answer this question. Why do we put it up with it all? Why do 55 million Britons? We conquered the world once. We took civilization to the world. We had a worldwide empire. We took civilization to the world, and we're so generous. When they asked us to leave, we left. I was in a public house last night with a couple of friends, and it was so pleasant and so civilised in a suburb of Edinburgh, or just beyond Edinburgh actually. Very civilised. Now where I come from, I'm a Londoner. It is dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Dreadful, and being destroyed. London is being destroyed in front of my eyes. I've lived in London most of my life. For those of you who might be interested and haven't yet seen it, I've got here what I call my visiting card. I stood as a National Front candidate in a parliamentary by-election in London a year ago. And if you haven't got it, if I haven't yet given it to you, and you'd like one of my what I call visiting cards, this is the leaflet that we published in the parliamentary by-election in Croydon North. We put out thousands of these by hand, and the post office put out thousands more. I was inspired to stand in this by-election in Croydon because I live about 2 miles from Croydon, and I happen to live on a hilly part of London called Sutton, and Croydon is in the valley below. Now, one night I saw a sight which most people found absolutely terrifying, but a sight that I knew was always going to come. 3 years ago, there were major riots in London, which lasted for 3 whole days and nights. The authorities didn't give a damn, the police chief didn't do anything, the politicians didn't do anything. And I was listening to my little radio set, and it suddenly said on my radio set, 10:30, on a warm August night, 2011, it said, "Croydon is burning." I live about 2 miles from Croydon. Croydon town centre is burning. So I went out of my house, walked down the road a short while, from here to the end of the block, and because I'm on a hill and Croydon's in the valley, and because it was about 10:30 at night, you could see Croydon burning. Whole blocks were being set alight, whole blocks. And people were coming out of their houses, they'd obviously seen it on their television sets, and they were gawping. In fact, I walked up and down the whole road. I walked down the road towards the burning Croydon, because we're on a sort of slope, with everybody staring at Croydon. When I got to the bottom of the road, I turned around and walked up the hill again, so that I had burning Croydon behind me, and I was looking into people's faces. And I was the only person in that street who didn't have, my God, I never thought I'd see Croydon burn, because I've always known it was going to burn. That's why I'm a nationalist. I then stood in a parliamentary by-election in this town, Croydon. Now I'll tell you, Croydon North is what the Americans call a crime zone, a riot zone, and a white flight zone. Because all the whites, or most of the whites who get out of Croydon North, don't live there. There are 2 population groups live in Croydon, the Asians and the blacks. Now it was the underclass who was setting all the shops alight. And committing murder and looting the shops and setting them alight. Oh, the whole block went up. And I campaigned as an act of defiance, National Front in a riot zone and a crime zone. And I calculated, because one has to calculate in this business, I calculated that there'd be no love lost between the Asians and the Asian shopkeepers and, shall I say, the underclass, the criminal underclass, who regularly mug people in Croydon, muggings and murders, and who set all the shops alight. And I and a team, we put out thousands of leaflets, not a single complaint. Because we went to the areas which are mixed Asian and white. We didn't go to the black areas. I didn't think I'd get many votes in the black areas. But I did think I could put out thousands of National Front leaflets in the other areas, and so it turned out. So if you want one of these leaflets, I'll go back to what some of the earlier speakers said, and I will concede the National Front has had tremendous ups and downs, because we are grappling with the demoralisation of British people. Only a totally demoralised people will put up with this, and put up with politicians who let the criminals burn and riot and murder for 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights it went on. Until in the end, when the criminal underclass had smashed every shop in their area, and when they went to buy some fags or a bottle of milk, all the shops were burnt out. That's when the riot stopped. The riots literally burnt themselves out. That's London. Yes, when you're trying to grapple with a totally demoralised people, and only a totally demoralised people will put up with all this, you have some ups and downs. And the secret, the National Front was formed almost 50 years ago, and the secret has been we have the power of endurance, We can put up with the lies and the insults and all the nonsense. We have resilience, we bounce back, and we persevere, So that's a little introduction to me and to why I do all this business. What I'd like to say now, I'd like to focus on the here and now, and I discussed with Dave and I discussed with Kevin when they asked me, when we discussed this meeting, and I will say to you, there are two major elections taking place this year, and they are both very, very dangerous for us. Dangerous for a country which is moving towards its death. The whole white race is moving to its death, there's no doubt about that. The birth rate in Britain, the birth rate in the white birth rate in Britain, the white birth rate in the United States of America, the white birth rate in France, the white birth rate in Germany, etc., is very low. You've heard Dave talk about the problems of Muslims and other such problems. The whole white race, in particular, us here in Britain, which is our concern because we're British, is facing great dangers. And these two elections this year present great dangers for us. We all know that the purpose of Alex Salmond and his so-called Scottish Nationalist Party is they aim to break up the United Kingdom. They hope that this referendum later this year will sever, like a bloody knife on a piece of meat or a body, sever Scotland from the rest of us, which would be an absolute tragedy for many, many reasons. I will echo the words of Bixie, wherever Bixie is. Where's he gone to? Oh, beside him. I'm not even this bloke in the audience, he's beside me. No one I can see, he's beside me. We have been together for thousands of years. We are a united people. We've been here for thousands of years. There are stone monuments in Britain built by our ancestors. Stonehenge was built 4,000 years ago. Stonehenge. There are monuments in the very north of Scotland. There are monuments across in Ireland built by our ancestors thousands of years ago. Our ancestors, us, men and women exactly the same as us, who've kept this going, kept our race going through all sorts of difficulties. So, we're a great people. We're a great people. With regard to this coming referendum, I will say this, I'll use the word we, but I'm obviously speaking of myself, but I think I speak for the National Front, I know that. We trust, because the National Front believes in the unity of the British people. Together we are strong. We live in a very, very dangerous world, and together we are strong. There's every reason to reject Salmond and his referendum, and we trust the good people of Scotland that they will see the paramount need to reject Salmond, reject Salmond, and to maintain the union. Scotland and England have been united formally for ever since James I, your James VI became our James I. That was in the 1603, and then in 1707 there was the political act of union. We've been together for hundreds of years. As I say, my mother's mother came from Edinburgh. You've got me because my grandmother. I remember the woman, very good woman. I remember she's still alive when I was a kid. Yeah, I could tell you about my grandmother. A remarkable woman, my grandmother. Saying that she's only born in Edinburgh is just the beginning of what my grandmother. She's a remarkable woman. Anyway, stick on to this. Question. This is the question. We're in politics. We come to these meetings and we support this movement because we understand the importance of politics. Britain, all of our problems come down to politics because that trash, traitor trash, Westminster and elsewhere, they are responsible, as earlier speakers have said, they're responsible for everything. They're responsible for everything. The question is, where do the Scottish Nationalists, the Scottish National Party, where do they get their audacity from? The audacity to attempt to break up the United Kingdom. Where do they get the boldness and the insolence, the energy and the confidence to break up the United Kingdom? Excuse me. Where do they get all this from? The energy, the fierce energy, the confidence that they can do it, the method and the means to break up the unity of the British people. Where does that come from? When you look at Salmond on the television, where does it come from? The energy and the confidence. It comes from the European Union. The European Union gives them that confidence. The European Union Union was set up from day one in the early 1950s. I remember it being set up. The very purpose of the European Union was made absolutely clear by its founder members in about 1954. It was founded. The whole purpose was, from day one, quite openly spoken out, was to merge and to submerge the traditional countries and nations of every country in Europe, definitely including Great Britain, and to form a super-state to which we were to hand over our sovereignty, our independence, we were to hand over the right to rule ourselves, hand all this over until we cease to become a sovereign, independent nation and degenerate down to a province to be ruled from Brussels. Now we know all about provinces, because once we had a British Empire, we ruled all these other countries with the British people here in Britain doing the ruling. Now the whole thing is being turned upside down and we're being ruled from somewhere else. That was the open idea of the European Union from day one. Rule from Brussels, whether you like it or not. They're completely open about it. Now, we all know that the traitor trash, you understand the politicians, Labour, Tory, Liberal Democrat, Scottish Nationalist Party, the traitor trash at Westminster and elsewhere, they've taken us a long way down the road to our subjugation to Brussels. I am old enough to remember, I happen to be 71 years of age actually, it's just amazing really. I'll tell you this, you want to know, time goes remarkably quick. Do take advantage of it every day and every week, because bingo, it does go quick, you know. I have a job remembering all sorts of things. What century are we in? What millennium are we in? 1990s something, is it? No, it's gone past the 1990s. Anyway, it does have some advantages. I remember traitor, Tory traitor, those two words go together, Tory traitor. I remember Tory traitor Ted Heath. When Ted Heath took this country into the European Union, which at the time was deliberately, misleadingly called the common market. And it was just a common market, a trading bloc, and Ted Heath got us into that by lying to the British people and saying, it's only a trading bloc, there is no political agenda to the common market. Now, anybody and everybody who took a serious interest in politics knew back then in 1972 or 3, everybody knew back in 1972, 73 that the European Union, the founding members, had a very political, open agenda, that they were going to merge, they intended, it was quite open, merge, submerge every European country, including Britain, into a super-state to be ruled from Brussels. And Ted Heath just openly lied. Openly lied. Question. How have these politicians, how has it been done? How have they got, look, Britain is a great country. We've done amazing things in the past, just amazing, as Britain. Not England or Wales or Scotland or Ireland or Ulster, but as Britain. We've done amazing things. It was the British who founded the Industrial Revolution. This standard of living that we've got, the electricity and trains and all the rest of it, was the genius of the British people. Our genius. James Watt, for example, who was a Scotsman, right? Okay, let's have some credit here. James Watt, one of those who founded, who understood the power of steam engines. Someone's got to think these ideas up. He was a Scotsman, James Watt. When you talk about electricity, you've got amps and you've got volts, you've got watts. That's named after James Watt, a Scotsman. We laid the foundations for the present modern world. All this technology comes from Britain. We founded it 200 years ago. So how have they managed to get the surrender of our country, which no one has managed to do for 1,000 years? As an Englishman, you know, go back to 1066, that's when us Anglo-Saxons got our skulls bashed in by William the Conqueror. I don't think he actually got as far as Scotland, did he? Bonnie Scotland, he didn't get as far as here, did he? Didn't bash your skulls in, just bashed our skulls skulls in. That was 1066. But since then, no one's come over here and bashed our skulls in. For 1,000 years, we've been independent. So how have they done all this? Answer: the traitor politicians at Westminster have yielded, surrendered Britain up. The traitor Tory Heath, the traitor Tory Ted Heath, he got Britain in under lies. Under lies. The next Tory traitor, and those words always go together with a hyphen in between, Tory traitor was Margaret Thatcher. She, when she was Prime Minister, signed up the Act of Parliament called the Single European Act of Parliament. Single European. That Act of Parliament surrendered Westminster rule to Brussels. When people want to know why are we ruled from Brussels, why does Brussels laws and regulations override our Westminster British laws and regulations, the answer is it was Margaret Thatcher, by signing up the Single European Act of Parliament, made Westminster, our Parliament, subservient to Brussels. She signed that up. The next Tory-traitor was her successor, John Major. John Major, in the 1990s, signed up for the Maastricht Treaty. The Maastricht Treaty laid down the foundations of the economic and monetary union of the European Union. The Maastricht Treaty, which John Major signed up for, laid the foundations for the euro currency. Across the whole of the continent, they've got the euro currency. We've still got our financial independence with the pound sterling. There are powerful forces in Britain who want us to abandon the pound sterling and take up the euro. The euro is managed from the European Central Bank in Frankfurt, Germany. So we're ruled from Brussels, and the finances of Europe are controlled from Frankfurt, Germany. When and it's coming, we drop the pound sterling and adopt the euro, we will then lose our financial independence. The next traitor, there was a switch, it's Tweedledum and Tweedledee. You get bored with this hand, you get bored with this puppet, they bring another puppet. They got rid of the Tories, they brought in that other traitor from the other traitorous party, Tony Blair. Tony Blair of the Labour Party, Labour Prime Minister. He won that election in '97, Tony Blair, and his slogan was New Labour, New Britain. And a friend of mine, a lot cleverer than me, said, New Britain? What was wrong with the old Britain? I thought, blimey, yeah, that's clever, isn't it? What was wrong with the old Britain? I'm a bit slow. I need to have these ideas put in my head, but once they're in there, because I've got a thick skull, they stay in my head and go round and round and round and round my head. What was wrong with the old Britain? Tony Blair never told us. But the new Britain's coming, the new Britain with these wicked politicians. So, Tony Blair signed up the Lisbon Treaty in the year 2009. The Lisbon Treaty, a lot of this is done with words. People look at the words and the words are a bit hazy. The Lisbon Treaty gave the European Union a legal personality. A legal personality. What does that mean, a legal personality? The Lisbon Treaty, 2009, signed up by Tony Blair, gave the European Union the right to act as a political power in the world. It gave the European Union the right to sign agreements with other countries, the United States of America, the Russian Federation, China, whatever, as if the European Union was now a country in its own right. The European Union has got a president, and the European Union has got a foreign minister, all set up by the Lisbon Treaty of 2009. Now, I will say to you, I'll dot the I's and cross the T's for you, since you're kind enough to listen to me. All this has been done by stealth, lies and fraud. And I will say to you, it's been done by such stealth, the setting up of the European Union as a superpower to which we almost 9/10 or 99% surrendered our political independence. The European Union has been set up with such stealth, lies and fraud that although the European Union has got a president and a foreign minister, I wonder how many people. We all know President Obama in the US of A, right? tall, skinny guy, tall and skinny as me, but a different hue, you understand, right? You have got that right. Otherwise they're both tall and skinny, but there are one or two. There's a difference. Anyway, we all know President Obama of the USA. We all know President Putin of the Russian Federation. Does anybody know? There's been such lies and fraud and deceit and stealth. What's the name of the President of the European Union? He could declare war tomorrow. Do you know his name?
There's a Belgian guy, isn't it? Roscoe, isn't it?
He's a Belgian. His name is Van Rompuy. Van Rompuy. And the foreign minister is a Labour woman who's never been voted but anywhere, called Ashton. Lady Ashton, she calls herself. A Labour hack who's never won an election in Britain is now the foreign minister. Via NATO, could declare war tomorrow. No one knows their names because it's been done by such stealth and fraud. So that's that. One final question. Right. Where do these ideas come from? Where do the ideas to submerge and destroy all the European countries with their history? France and Germany, Italy and Spain. Well, Italy goes back 2,000 years to the Romans. They had Hadrian's Wall up here. Britain goes back at least 1,000 years as a formal state. We go back thousands of years as the inhabitants of these islands. Where do the ideas come from to break up these states? The idea to submerge us and subjugate us, to turn us into a mere province of Brussels. Who dreamed the idea up? And what is the intended final outcome of the project of the European Union? And it's coming, the final day when the countries of Europe, starting off with Britain, when we surrender the last of our national independence, I'm now going to tell you who dreamed this up and where it's all going to end. It was dreamed up after the First World War, the idea of the European Union. It was dreamed up, conceived in a man's, I'm using my words very carefully here, conceived in an individual's head in the 1920s after the First World War. The individual was a half-caste. He had an Austrian diplomat for a father called Coudenhove-Kalergi. The father was an Austrian diplomat. Coudenhove spelled with a C, Kalergi spelled with a K. The mother was a Japanese woman called Mitsuko Ayama. The son of this union was born in Tokyo in the late 1890s, and he took his father's name. Coudenhove with a C, Kalergi with a K. I would suggest, if you've got a computer, you look him up on Wikipedia. And I'm now going to quote to you what Coudenhove-Kalergi had to say about our future. Let's get this one thing clear. If you read the European Union, if you read what the founding fathers said, and if you read what the supporters say, they honour Coudenhove-Kalergi with his Japanese mother, born in Tokyo in the 1890s. They honour him as the spiritual father, the man who had the idea for the European Union. Obviously the Second World War put the whole project off the rails, but they soon had it back on again. The early 50s they had the whole thing running again. The idea of submerging, dissolving, subjugating and destroying the traditional nations of Europe, including Britain. Question, what I'm aiming for. How did Coudenhove-Kalergi, the spiritual founder of the European Union, to which we've almost surrendered all of our national independence, how did he see the future? I advise you, if you've got a computer, look it up on Wikipedia. Here, I've printed it out. So I'll read it out to you, since you can't see what it said. I'll print it off and I printed this out the other day. I quote him, I can quote him, yeah? Yeah? You know what's coming, don't you? Yeah, good. Good. Okay. Good work. I've got to get the green light. Right, go on, Richard. Someone says to me, go on, Richard. This is what Coudenhove said. I'm going to read it out now. Born in Tokyo, Japanese mother, Austrian diplomat for father. The man of the future will be mixed race. Today's races will disappear. The future race will be Eurasian Negroid, meaning part European, part Asian, part Negro. And the spiritual nobility and the leaders of Europe will be Jews. Jews will be Jews. If you've got a computer, listen, I used to be a school teacher, and I used to say to the lads, I only taught boys, I didn't teach girls. It's bad enough teaching boys, don't I? Anyway, we'll keep this simple. I was saying to these lads, check it out, check it out, just check it out. You know, do your homework and check it out. And I'd say to you, got a computer, Wikipedia, Coudenhove, spelled with a C, hyphen, Kalergi, spelled with a K. His full name is Richard Nicholas von Coudenhove, hyphen Kalergi. So there you have the blueprint for our destruction. Thought up in the 1920s. He wasn't actually alone, but he's the guy that they give all the credit to. All the nations of Europe are to be broken up and ruled from Brussels, including Great Britain, to be broken up, which is what Salmon's all about with this referendum, of course. Chopping up Britain like a bit of meat, and then chuck it into the stewing pot. All the nations of Europe to be broken up and ruled from Brussels. Britain and Europe to be flooded with millions from Asia and Africa to breed us out, the mixed race of the future. And thirdly, all to be rolled over by, I quote very carefully, I'm quoting the exact words here, a new spiritual nobility. A new spiritual nobility and leaders of Jews. That's what he said. That was his blueprint in the 1920s, more or less 90 years ago. You recognise it? It's the world we live in, isn't it? The world that we live in. The world that we live in. Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude now. I will conclude by saying that you opened up this meeting with a minute's silence to Chris Donald. At the age of 15, abducted from the streets of Glasgow by a gang of Asians. They tortured him for hours, they stabbed him for hours. We know that he was alive when they poured petrol on him and set him alight, we know that. At the age of 15, I will now, with your leave, I will name 4 other young victims of the criminal multiracial society. The multiracial society is a crime because it was set up without any leave from us. I will name Ross Parker, stabbed to death by Asians in Peterborough. I will name Richard Everett, aged 15, stabbed to death by Asians in Somerstown, North London. I will name Christina Atkins, a schoolgirl, aged 15, stabbed to death on a bus in Birmingham at 7:30 in the morning, going to school, stabbed to death by an Asian. And I'll mention the last name, will be a young man, Terry Gregory, aged 19, stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich, South London, by a black. Young people could be alive today, but for the deliberate flooding of our country by millions of foreigners who don't belong here. Fellow nationalists, speed the day that the trash traitors at Westminster and elsewhere who invited the whole world into our country to take us over, speed the day the trash traitors are voted out of office. Thank you very much.
Kev Bryan.
ladies and gentlemen, fellow nationalists, fellow whites. I'd like to thank Dave for inviting me here today, and obviously for putting this fantastic meeting on. And obviously he's had help from Stenny and the rest of the team, and we've obviously worked tirelessly to make sure this event runs as smoothly as possible. Because we all know, don't we, that the enemy will use every dirty trick in the book to make sure we fail to hold our rallies and our meetings. And these tricks can range from left-wing mobs made up of immigrants, IRA supporting filth. They used to turn up, and occasionally they still turn up to disrupt our meetings. Smashing up venues, attacking our supporters, and of course when they do attack our members and supporters, they don't usually have it toe-to-toe against equal numbers. Communist, unwashed filth against pure blood, white nationalist men, there's no competition, because one-to-one nationalists will win every time. The red trash, as we know, cowardly red trash, they'll attack landlords, they'll attack the pubs, they'll smash up businesses that the landlords have worked hard to build up over many years. These people don't give a damn. They'll put the windows through and they'll smash the place up. Most of the time, when the red filth come to oppose us, they hide behind the police. How ironic that the very institution they usually despise, the police force, they choose to hide behind the police, calling us, throwing stuff at us, Nazis, fascists. How ironic that they'll do that one week, and then the following week they'll be on the streets of London throwing the same things at the police force, calling them Nazis and fascists. How ironic it is. Just how confused, it shows just how confused these warriors of the left, so-called warriors, really are. And another example of the confusion of the left is when we see groups of queers stood side by side with militant Muslims, chanting at patriots, at nationalists. They stood side by side. How laughable that this strange combination is. Because if nationalists fail, and as predicted, Britain becomes an Islamic state, these very queers will be the first one the Muslims put to the sword and stone. That is, if they don't die of AIDS first. Also, very often when we look at these red mobs that oppose nationalists, we see the upkeepers of morality stood there, the clergy, chanting away just the same as every other red. They go and they give interviews to the TV and the media. They tell them how us nationalists, we're the devil incarnate, how there is no place in society for us. They spout about what is right, what is wrong, and they shout from the rooftops about the evils of racism, and what an evil bunch that these people, us nationalists, that oppose the colonisation of our towns and cities, what an evil bunch we are. They don't give a damn that an alien religion that venomously opposes them is spreading across the nation like wildfire. They don't give a damn that every week they're seeing the congregations dwindling, and they don't give a damn that every week churches are closing the doors for the final time. All they give a damn about is the right to stand there and call those that oppose this colonisation evil racists. And of course that is when they can spare the time from chasing the choir boys around the And another group we see amongst the red mobs is the Union of Jewish Students. But we shouldn't be surprised about that, should we, to see this bunch there, because they oppose every form of white patriotism. And in the past, our venues have been cancelled. Annual rallies in the old days have been cancelled because they've received an intimidating phone call from the Jewish Board of Deputies. And whenever nationalists start to make gains, these people are always there, sticking their not so small noses into our business and doing everything, pressurising government, pressurising the authorities to stop us. Of course, these people pretend to worry about Nigel Farage and UKIP making gains. But we all know, don't we, that they would much sooner Farage and UKIP came to power than us real nationalists. Because Farage is just another friend of the establishment, a friend of the banksters. And obviously, with Nigel Farage in charge, their catalogue of lies are safe. But with us, we would bring the whole house tumbling down, and we would free the white man once and for all from their lies and their shekel. We would free the white man from that catalogue. When myself and Ross arrived here last night, I made a quick telephone call to Dave, asking him where the best place for us to go for a pint was. So we got a taxi there and we sat there drinking, and the next thing there were quite a few people coming in, all wearing the Union flag on the jumpers, and they were going to just down the road there to another village to a loyalist night. I thought very interesting. We actually thought they were going to set up in the pub we was in. Anyway, we got talking to a few of them, and they said, why don't you come along with us? So Stanley took us there. Anyway, when we got there, what a fantastic show it was. A show of patriotism. And, you know, we listened to the flute bands, and you could see the belief and the commitment in these people's faces. And this is something we don't see very often. We don't see these communities very often in England. So, I was very proud to be there last night. Some of the band members, I think, some of the people who were there are actually here with us today. They went to the Loyalist night last night, and it hit home to me how all is not lost. Seeing this many people still with a pride and proud to be British, this is what it's all about. And to me, this meeting today is about unity, blood and union. And we all know that while around here many of the villages are full of people proud to be British, but also amongst the people, and obviously over there, especially in Glasgow, the communities are also full of people that are ashamed of this flag and they'd sooner fly the Irish tricolour. These people living on our island, they're going around the pubs with the collection boxes to fund terrorism, to fund the IRA. Money to fund the blowing up of British servicemen and British public. But of course, it's not just these people that have betrayed the British people and the loyal people of Ulster. Successive British governments have been doing it for years. They have been betraying our people. Bit by bit, they have been complicit in funding and in doing their best to sell out the people of Ulster and to give the South a say in the affairs of Northern Ireland. And now we have commanders of the IRA as MPs. And we see in the paper today, I don't know how many people have seen it, I saw it in the Mail online, Adams and McGuinness attending that other traitor, Tony Benn's funeral. Them two are over here, and in one photo it shows Sherry Blair hugging McGuinness. Now, yeah, of course, let's invite Adams and McGuinness over here to the mainland, but let them swing by the neck from the gallows where they belong. Because for many years, and including when they blew up the Grand Hotel in Brighton, killing several Tories, all we have seen since from successive governments is total weakness when it comes to the IRA. When that bomb went off in the Grand Hotel, the order should have gone out for the SAS to wipe out every known IRA terrorist and every IRA activist. But what we saw instead was appeasement And we only have to look at City Hall in Belfast today to see the result of that appeasement and to see that gone is the Union flag from flying over City Hall. Appeasement all the way along the lines. Ladies and gentlemen, successive governments have sold out the people of Ulster, all part of their paymasters' plans to break up and to destroy the Union. Sinn Féin and the IRA are just another Marxist tool to help them along the way. And of course here in Scotland, and as Richard said, you see another one of the tools of the establishment being used to break up the Union. Alex Salmond and the SNP. Phony nationalists that welcome and class black, brown and yellow-skinned peoples as being Scottish. Salmond is just another one that welcomes the Muslim colonisation of whole areas of Glasgow. And another thing, you never saw Salmond utter a damn word when Chris Donald was murdered. Salmond wants to see Scotland break away from the rest of the United Kingdom. He claims he wants independence, but as Richard said, ladies and gentlemen, how long would this independence last before Salmond continued to push ahead with his paymasters' plans to absorb Scotland into the European Union? Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is Salmond's real aim. I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, that common sense will prevail and the people of Scotland stick two fingers up to Alex Salmond and independence. Myself and other people in England, Wales and Ulster, we want Scotland to remain with us as part of the Union for all time. We all know, don't we, that how the controlled media like to play their game of divide and rule. And just like we see in England, we see the local press, the media, saying how the Scottish people don't like us. You must see that in Scotland, that the English people don't like you. But ladies and gentlemen, we all know that is a damnable lie. Because apart from possibly the Fenian Scots, the Scottish and the English are like that. I'm absolutely sure. Because flowing through our veins is the blood of generations of the same ancestry. The blood of the Celts, the blood of the Saxons and other tribes. Yeah, different tribes, but with the same colour skin. Different tribes of white peoples that have over the years stood together on the battlefields of Europe and the whole world. Tribes of people that have joined together in union to make up our United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, as white people of the United Kingdom, it is not just the treacherous politicians that are doing their best to destroy our union. They also want to destroy us through their other plan of mongrelization. Our towns and cities across the whole of the UK are changing beyond recognition, full of people from Africa, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China and every other part of the subcontinent. People that have no right to be here. And even the minute these people are given passports, the establishment, the politicians, they're so happy to call these people British. Well, we all know, don't we, ladies and gentlemen, that that is a damnable lie. Because what makes you British is the centuries of blood that flows through our veins. That is what makes you British. We see, you can go into job centres, other places, we see on forms, we see the tick boxes you have to fill in. Are you black British, Asian British, yellow British? What a nonsense! There is only one British, white British! Ladies and gentlemen, the way this nation is going, and on statistics, the UK could be a Muslim country within 25 to 30 years. Last week, we saw in the newspapers, and it was only little bits, that Sharia law has now been absorbed into British law. And this is just another example of the erosion of our freedoms. And you know, what did we see the British people do? Did we see them get up? Did we see them get out onto the streets? No. They've just accepted it. They choose to remain blinkered. But yet, through all this, I do still believe that at the 11th hour, whenever that may be, Richard, perhaps you can tell us, the white man will awake, and the white man will see sense and realise that the only answer, if Britain is to breathe again, the only answer can be repatriation. Ladies and gentlemen, UKIP, we all know, like the SNP, are phony nationalists. Another party in May, when it loses its MEP, will be all but finished. The National Front is 47 years old, and once again, we're becoming a household name. Once again, we are on the march. Buried in the ground of our United Kingdom are the bodies of millions of warriors that over centuries have slaughtered each other in tribal conflict and bloody brothers' wars. Together, under the banner of the National Front, we must go forward. Together, we must sweep the weak little traitors from the corridors of power. Together, united as brothers, bonded by blood. Together, we must keep this land, our kingdom, white, united and free for all time.
Thank you for that rousing speech. We're about to cause some trouble without saying that.
Party image, come on.
Okay, I'm about to cause some trouble. I'd like to say thanks again to everyone for turning up to this meeting today. The people that have travelled even further than us from Aberdeen, it's appreciated to come to support us. And we hope that sometime in the future we'll have another meeting in Scotland.